Hey everyone, and welcome back to OntarioCyrptids. Hope you all had a great week. And well, I think we're finally going to see things cool down here in TO. We had a spell of warm weather, and as of Friday, it started raining. How fitting to rain on Remembrance Day. And on that note, I want to thank all those who fight to protect our country. Today I have 4 encounter stories to share with you all. Some are really short, as is the reality of one spotting a hairy giant of the woods. Most encounters last less than 5 seconds. Mostly people are traveling in their cars, heading to their destinations when they spot these beings. And that is very little time to react, let alone take a picture or a video. Before we get to these encounter stories, I would just like to add that if you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCyrptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Okay, go grab yourself a beverage and get cozy in your favorite spot and sit back and relax. This first one takes place September 20th of 2022. We are going to Wasatch County, Utah, and the location is near the Daniel Summit Lodge property. This is a brief sighting of it walking downhill through the trees on the edge of Daniel Summit Lodge property, approximately 100 yards away from the cabin we were staying in. I awoke from our 2 dogs being agitated by the cabin's open window. My wife walked to the window and observed a large figure walking through the trees for a brief time before disappearing behind a structure. This occurred at approximately 1:30 a.m. It was a partially lit moonlight evening, and it was walking downhill off the ridge, which is a mix of aspen, pines, and some scrub oaks. This next one takes place on March 18th of 2012, and we're going to be going to Lafleur County, Oklahoma, and the nearest town is Big Cedar. My wife and I were in Broken Bow, Oklahoma on Sunday, the 18th of March, 2012. We live in Arkansas, about 20 miles west, but on a whim decided to take a 2-hour detour north of Highway 259 and cut across Rich Mountain. Rich Mountain is the highest point in the Washita Mountains. I had commented about how squatchy the area looked, and my wife replied that we would not see one in the daytime. Well, about 45 minutes later, she saw one. We were about a mile south of Talamina Scenic Byway on 259, right on the west end of Rich Mountain. She said it was about 35 to 40 feet off the road, walking behind a tree. She described it as being 9 to 10 foot tall with stringy hair of various shades of brown. She noticed it was bipedal, with long arms swinging in the usual squatchy way. She was very firm when I asked if it was a bear, and she said she knew what she saw. As my luck goes, we were at the point where the road was hairpin curves with no shoulders and no way to turn around. I guess I'll have to wait for my first sighting. One thing she mentioned was noticing the muscles in the arms and legs. If this was a man in a suit, they went to some trouble to pull this off. This next one takes place August 12th of 2022. Again, we are in Lafleur County, Oklahoma, and the nearest town is Mena, Arkansas. I have lived in the area east of Highway 259 and Highway 63, also known as Big Cedar, for 36 years. I was outside my home and I heard 7 to 10 howls to the north. It was a sound I've never heard in the area before. I've spent considerable time in these woods, hunting, fishing, and as a teen I would camp alone with my squirrel dog. The only time I've heard anything like it was on TV during the Bigfoot shows. I wasn't going to make a report, but while reading some of the reports, I came across 34657. In early summer of 2007, I was headed north from Big Cedar on 259 and saw a tall, dark figure cross the highway about half a mile ahead of me. It was one solid dark color, from head to feet, bipedal with long arms, extremely dark brown to black, in almost the exact same place as seen in report 34657. Time was around 10 a.m. All right, so here's the last one for today. This one occurs on October 17th of 2015. We are going to Wyoming County of West Virginia, and the location is going to be Bolt Mountain. I have spent my whole life in the woods in this area. My stepson and I were ginseng hunting in an area that I had been through multiple times. We decided to try the opposite side of the ridge that we had went to the weekend before and harvested a pretty sizable amount of ginseng. As we dropped down from the ridge and began going around the hill, we noticed that the area we were in was a little darker due to the excellent shade cover from the large timber in that area. As a result, there was a lot of moss, chicken of the woods, and other mushrooms. As we started to go through the swag, off of the small point we were on, we began to hear some unusual sounds. One of the sounds resembled almost like laughter. What was so strange is that it was low but echoed. You could see really good under the timber. There's some small trees but no thick brush, so we kind of ignored it and wrote it off as just an unusual sound of a bird. We heard this sound 5 or 6 times. Just a few seconds after, we heard a low growling sound that didn't resemble any kind of bear or coyote that I hadn't heard. I yelled, "Hey bear, get out of here," in an attempt to possibly scare off any kind of predator in the area. I had seen several bears in the area over the years and actually harvested 2 with my stepson. The next moment, a loud sound that almost resembled an ambulance siren or a siren on a vehicle, but with more depth in the tone, rang throughout the woods. Then a few seconds of a sound that was a long huff, 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 that was very guttural and grungy came through the woods. We stood in silence until my stepson said he wants to leave. I was as scared as he was. He was only about 13 at the time. I told him to just hold on, and I'm sure it was nothing. I had a Glock 21 SF with me with a .45 caliber handgun and was pretty confident that we could handle anything in the woods. Suddenly, about 60 yards away, the tops of trees started swaying back and forth, and you could hear the sound of feet moving quickly in the leaves, but it didn't sound like any bear, deer, or squirrel moving. The steps were heavy, yet so fast-paced. There was a grouping of trees, beech, maple, and hickory between 8 inches to 24 inches in diameter. None of the larger trees were shook. The smaller trees, 8 inches in diameter to 16 inches in diameter, were swaying back and forth violently, and the tops were banging against each other. I looked around and observed that there was no wind blowing at this time. The larger timber in the area somewhat blocked our view of the creatures doing this from where we were standing, but occasionally we would catch a glimpse of what appeared to be a large creature on two legs, approximately 6 to 7 feet tall, moving from one smaller tree to another before shaking the tree hard enough that it would bang the tops of the other trees. This occurred for approximately 3 to 5 minutes. It is notable that these creatures always position itself to the backside of the tree, keeping the tree between us. It stopped for about 30 seconds. There was no sound in the woods whatsoever. Then we heard a quick footsteps going through the leaves. As we moved, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever it was, we could see a large creature, brownish black, on two legs moving quickly as it moved between the trees. It was so fast that we could only catch a glimpse of the creature. It was putting distance between us. All of a sudden, the trees started shaking again. Trees 6 to 8 inches in diameters were shaking violently. Branches were flailing from the tops as they banged together. Then a tree began to crack, and within a few seconds, it quickly fell. The tree was probably 20 to 25 feet high, give or take, and 6 to 8 inches in diameter. After the tree had fallen, another tree similar in size but much taller began to shake violently until it cracked and fell to the ground. 5-6 trees were broken in this manner. Then as quickly as it started, it all stopped. You could hear the sound of something crossing the point in the distance with heavy, quick steps. We decided to go down into the area. Well, I did. He was in shock and near tears, but I had the firearm, so he went with me. There were a lot of small trees freshly broken in the area. The larger trees we had seen broken were all broken in the same direction, pointing downhill. As we investigated the area where the creature had been, we heard what sounded like rocks being rolled down the hill. I looked up at one point in front of us and could see large rocks, the size of a basketball, maybe a little larger, being rolled down the point, not towards us, but close enough that it would obviously scare us. I could see a large creature, old, squatted. I thought it was a stump at first, but then it quickly moved to the side of the tree, blending in with the shade and remaining hunched or squatted. I stared at what I thought to be a creature momentarily. The woods were completely still. I turned to my stepson and told him that we would go exactly the way we came. As we were leaving, I remembered I had a peanut butter and jam sandwich in my bag. I laid it on a stump as to say, I respect this as your home, and to say, eat this instead of me. I have been back through the area and heard strange sounds, but never had any more incidents. Each time, I leave a small gift like a Pop-Tarts or candy bar. Close to that area are large stacks of rocks that are uniform and almost rectangular. The stacks are usually level on top and measure 2 feet high by 6 to 7 feet in length and 4 feet in width. Several areas have large dugout holes against old logs that appear to be either wallowed or some kind of bedding area. I do not fear this creature in the least, but respect it immensely. The property is now leased by a hunting club, and I'm worried that they will disrupt his home as they do not respect Mother Nature, but rather feel above it. Wow, this last one was a doozy. I don't know whether that gun he had would have done anything with, I'm guessing there were more than one shaking those trees. If they really wanted to, I don't think the two of them would have walked out there alive. In my eyes, that shows that they're not out there to hurt people. But what an amazing encounter, and how frightening that would have been for a 13-year-old. Okay guys, that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed these encounter stories. Next week, we're going to hear back from Chris. He has another one that I'm going to be sharing with you all. So make sure to come back and listen to his story. If these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCyrptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story on this channel. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit the like button on your way out and smash the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all my latest uploads or when I go live. Have yourselves a great weekend, and I hope to see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.